This time I got a Sony VO5800. This is a 3/4 inch U-matic VTR, one of the first generation of cassette-based video equipment that was actually broadcast quality, and it grew into a broadcast format and started the whole ENG revolution. Because prior to that, everything was shot on film for news or large 1-inch and 2-inch formats. Anyway, this one came in to be checked over. It appears to have a loading problem. We're going to check it over and see if we can get this one to work. Before I even power this one up, I'm going to remove the top cover so we can give it a quick inspection, make sure there's nothing that is missing or broken, as I don't really know the history of it other than it was brought to me to check over and see what's wrong with it and see if we can get it to go. So 4 screws hold the top on this one, and then we'll get into it and see where the fault might be. Oh, look, there's a note from a prior service. Here's some repairs that this old beast has had over the years. Of course, this is a VO5800 Sony U-matic. Looks similar to, except for it's had some mods done on here. Looks like there's an extra board that's been added on here. What's with this? This has been modified, this unit. Yeah, that doesn't look original. But this one here, apparently, I don't know what's going on with it. I was told to check it out, so I don't know if it works or not. It was brought in for service along with those beta machines. So we'll grab a tape. I just want to give it an inspection first. Make sure nothing out of the ordinary jumps out here. We'll grab a tape. We'll thread up a tape and see what happens. So first things first, we'll load it up with a tape that we know is no good. Okay, it doesn't even load. Doesn't attempt to load. It is turned on. Now it's off. You hear it make some noise when I fire it up. But when I put the tape in, the elevator should turn on and it should drop the tape. And it's not. So possibly a switch isn't being activated, or the elevator has a problem. First we'll pull the elevator. But they hadn't perfected the art of making the spring so it can't fall off, like on mine. Don't want to yank on the wires here because that's a good way to dislodge them from the connector. So you always grab the connector to undo it. Gotta check the switches on here and make sure that the switches are actually working. On this one, it's actually an optical actuator. You can see it right down here when the lever pushes forward. It interrupts the signal. Now this wasn't fully ejected. I wound the mechanism back by hand. I'll put it through the motions, make sure everything works properly. Which it does. It goes down. And we'll take it back the other way. Now remember, I'm just interested to get this loading up a tape and getting it playing back. I'm not at all concerned if it records or not, because nobody in their right mind is putting anything to 3/4 inch tapes these days. Reinstall it and test it again. Now it loads. I wonder why it didn't. Maybe because it wasn't in the fully unloaded position at the time when I tried to put the tape in. Let's see if this thing plays. Looks like it's playing. That's good. Now this is a sticky shed tape that I did bake, but it was a while ago that I baked it, like probably last year sometime. I forget when I baked it, but I baked it a while ago. I can't show you what's on here. It's super secret squirrel stuff. I wish I could show it to you. I can show you color bars. I probably show you what's on here. I can't show you the opening for the show though, because it's the trailer for the old TV series 21 Jump Street. What I am noticing though is the take-up torque appears to be pretty low on this. Take a look at the take-up spool. So, well, there is take-up torque on there. So why is it doing that? Is it just the hub on the tape? There's torque. I stopped it. I caused that. Let's see if I can get this thing to unload now that I stopped it by triggering one of the sensors. Damn it. Turn off the power and turn it back on. And that should cause it to reset. Okay, let's try that. Yeah, but there's definitely there is torque here. Why the tape is dancing like that? Good question. Let's see how search works. I mean, maybe it's just the tape. I'll try another tape. We'll try full fast forward. You can hear the tape squealing. Sticky shed syndrome. Crap Ampex tape. This tape's gonna stick to the head. It's guaranteed. Gonna stick. Because it's got sticky shed. But it's struggling, but it's doing it. I'll play another tape now that I know that this one works. That it's not going to eat it. I just threw this tape in because it's a garbage tape. I think I see the problem. It's not ejecting. It sticks. It's probably the loading belt, and that's why it wouldn't load, because it didn't eject all the way. See, it's slipping. So that's what this one needs. This one needs a new loading belt. So let's pull the front loader again and see if I can find a belt for it. That belt is weak. I'll also lubricate the gears on here because they're probably going to need it, but yeah, this belt needs to be changed out. They're easy to change. I should have one that will fit this. Let me just go look. They got a new belt on. The old one. Reload the elevator. I'll give this thing a few more tests, and we'll lubricate the other. Well, I've got this apart. Let me just get my lubricant out, and we'll lubricate the worm gear back there, because they do get gummed up. So for those wondering, this is just standard lithium grease that I'm using. It just keeps this one from getting bound up, because that will happen. The gears will bind and then it won't load. Now if I power it on with the elevator removed, it should go to a half load, which it does, and then I've hit eject. Now I can put the elevator back in. The elevator just drops in place. Real easy to work on these machines. You know, it's like they were designed to be serviced. This is what happens when a product is designed with serviceability in mind, for broadcast use, for example. And the story behind the U-matic system, now that I've jinxed myself in putting this stupid thing back together, the The story behind U-matic was when the format was first developed. It was not developed as a broadcast format. It was actually developed as a home format, but it never took off as a home format because it was too expensive and too bulky. But that was the original design, was to be used in a home, as a home VCR or VTR, or at least industrial. But it was the first cassette format, designed back in 1969, and it was adopted for industrial use. But it wasn't until the president of CBS approached Sony. Now Sony, along with Panasonic, developed the 3/4 inch, and this ultimately became Betamax with a few key changes. But the president of CBS went to Sony and they said, we want to use this machine, I gotta get this under here, for field production, news gathering. We need you to make it smaller. We need to be able to send this out with a small crew and basically do what has been done on 16mm film, because film is just too damn expensive. So we need you to make a machine that can be used out in the field to gather news stories. Electronic news gathering, ENG, that's where the term was coined from. So Sony went back and they developed a smaller machine that could run off batteries and run off of a portable camera, because the portable machines prior to that had been based on quad portables and even 1 inch, which were not portable at all. And they developed a 3/4 inch portable recorder that used the smaller tapes that were compatible with these machines. And they turned it into a broadcastable machine, still using the color under, which is what this uses. It uses the same type of color under circuitry that's used on VHS and Beta. Actually the same frequency that's used on Betamax, 688 kilohertz. The difference between this recording and a Betamax system, gotta plug the elevator in. Interrupted with a sales call from Shawgers. That's Shaw and Rogers, wanting to talk to the person responsible for my internet and phone accounts. I said, piss off. Where was I? Oh yes, I gotta plug this in. That's where I was, because you see I got interrupted. Gotta plug the elevator back in here, or it's not gonna work, obviously. Okay, elevator's plugged in, power on. I'll put my little minor hockey tape in, see if it will lift this one. Eject. There, that's a little better. All right, okay. So on a system like this, it uses guard bands between each track. So you've got a track recorded on the tape, and then there's an equal space that is intentionally left with no signal on it, and then the next track from the next head. And that was done to prevent interference from one track to the next. If I adjust the tracking, you'll see that it just goes to kind of like snow and then back. That's because we're seeing the guard bands. All videotape machines, see, this tape was recorded in 1998 when I filmed this game. This is a game that I filmed, and then copies were made for each of the kids on the team, for both teams. All these kids are old now. Trent Smalley, I know him. I know most of these people. right? I know their parents. Those three there were teachers at my high school. Anyway, and that's their kids playing in the game here. Anyway, there was a guard track between each video track, and when Beta was developed, they eliminated the guard band by using azimuth recording. So in other words, each head was at a slightly different angle. One was 7 degrees advanced and the other was 7 degrees retarded. So one was plus 7 degrees, the other was minus 7 degrees for Beta, and VHS did it 6 degrees, plus and minus 6, or was it the other way around? I forget. One of them was plus and minus 7 degrees, the other was plus and minus 6 degrees. But that allowed them to have the tracks butted right up against each other. That saved space, which meant the tape could run at a slower speed. And the actual Beta word apparently was a translation that meant gapless. I think that's what I read somewhere. I could be wrong, but I think I read that. There you go. Meaning of Beta in Japanese: things without gaps or spaces in between them. Something painted or printed solid. That is where Beta came from for Betamax, or Beta. That's where the word came from. Was when Sony developed azimuth recording. It meant gapless, no guard bands. And the word Beta was chosen. It was the Beta system, or Beta, or however you want to pronounce it. And Max was added because, hey, it sounds cool. Betamax, or Betamax. And that was the story on the development of home video. Now, JVC can take credit for VHS, but the problem was, back in the early days, they couldn't figure out how to make it work. And when they teamed up with Sony and Panasonic to develop a single home system, the Beta system, or Beta system, was the system that was basically derived from 3/4 inch and shared many things with 3/4 inch. We look at the way that the tape is threaded, for example. The tape is threaded around the drum exactly the same. On the initial Beta machines, it went that way, and Betacam, it goes that way. But it was the same, and even 8mm, the original 8mm used the Omega loading system, a U loading system. VHS came along and stole all the ideas from Sony, and they made enough changes so that they weren't infringing. So they changed the size of the head drum. They had to make it smaller because otherwise it would be infringing. So they made the head drum smaller than the Betamax, and they made the tape cassette bigger than the Betamax because otherwise Sony would have stopped them from producing them altogether, because that would have been IP, intellectual property, and patent violations and so forth. But anyway, this machine looks like it's working. I'm not going to do any recordings on it because it was brought to me because it wasn't working, and it was a belt that was bad. There could be other belts that are weak on here. I don't have them. They're available. I've got part numbers for them here. They're available from a company called Zin VTR Works down in the USA. If they're still around, I'm sure they are. But the fast forward belt, I've got the part number for that, and I've got the loading belt and the tire. Look, they look to be good on this, and this loading belt here. They're all available from this company called Zin, but I'm sure I could probably get them local too. Just order them by the size. But the loading belt's okay. It's fast forwarding and rewinding. It's taking up the tape okay. I think the tire's probably okay, because if it wasn't, it was slipping. You'd see it. The tape would be stopping, and so forth, and it would be eating the tape. So I think this one is okay. It just needed a belt on this one. So yeah, another one that's back in operation. I'm going to test it for a bit here, off camera, But another 3/4 that's back in service. We'll just go into rewind here and rewind the tape and see how it runs. Love it. Someone put the Maxell logo on here. Love it. It did rewind the tape back to the beginning, so it looks like rewind is okay on this thing. Oh, what? I used a heavy tape too, just for my, this is my test tape, right? So won't erase that one. This was recorded on my Panasonic NB9800 back in the day when I was using 3/4. 98 I was still using 3/4. I can show you guys this, I think. I think I can show this one. What's on this tape? This is my Las Vegas signs. Hey, where'd the color go? There, the tracking. Let's talk about how the color is encoded, because it's different on the different formats. See, on 3/4 inch, because they had guard bands, they converted the color down to 688 kilohertz and recorded it under the video signal, which was FM modulated. And they could get away with this without really doing much processing on the color. This is why 3/4 inch will have better color than, say, VHS and beta. Because the color is left, it's just converted down in frequency. But when they went to a gapless recording, beta in other words, even though you're using azimuth recording, because the color signals were lower in frequency, they tended to cross over from one head to the other. This video is on YouTube, right? But this was made off the master tape, obviously. Or this could be a master. This could be a master tape. This was shot on beta back in 1987. So what they had to do anyway was, on the color track, they inverted the color by 180 degrees for the odd and even field. VHS, to avoid being sued by Sony, did things a little bit different. They stepped the color head 90 degrees, and then 180, and then 270, and then back to 0. So there's 4 phase shifts. It took 2 full frames to get your color back in sync. Now that was a problem on VHS and Super VHS because you could not have accuracy any greater than 2 frames. You always had to have that second frame because to get back to 0 degrees for your cut-in, otherwise you'd have a momentary blip of color. Whereas Betamax and 8mm and 3/4 inch, you could have frame accurate editing if you had equipment that was capable of that accuracy. Anyway, this one is working. I'm just going to run a few tapes through it, make sure everything's good before I send it away. But yeah, it's working. I'll skew control if I adjust the skew control. Just clean the heads on this one before I send it out. Now, this being a U-matic, we're going to turn the drum clockwise as opposed to counterclockwise, as that's the direction that it turns. A little bit of dirt on there, and we'll also clean the audio and control heads, which are over here, and the erase head and time code head over on the side here. Again, designed to get at and clean easy, because operators would clean these in the field. Of course, the pinch roller too. Alright, it's now clean. Then we'll run another tape through here just to verify everything's working. And then we'll close this one off. Put my neon sign tape through again because I know that that tape is not damaged in any way. Does not have sticky shed. It's a Fuji tape after all. They didn't have that problem. That was a problem with Ampex. Crap Ampex BC or 197 Ampex tape was just junk. This stuff. Yeah, this crap. This was god awful tape. There we go. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.